say no to energy taxes. They are killing our ability to compete with China and India. Global warming is not man-made unless you count the emails in Great Britain that a bunch of scientists generated. That's the only way it's man-made.
Senator Thomas.
We have cleaner air today than we had 25 and 30 years ago. That's quantifiable. What the EPA now is trying to do under the Obama administration in dictating by way of an actual regulatory dictate is that the EPA standard actually be tightened. Let me tell you what that's going to do for us here. That will hamper economic development and crush us. That's one of the things that is being done for us that is impactfully negative. We cannot have, Bob, we cannot have a carbon tax. That's going to increase your gas bills by 25%. That's one of the big things that I very much disagree with the Congressman about.
Mr. Lee?
I believe the question was, what is the government's role in regulating greenhouse gases? The question is, do we know what the impact of greenhouse gases really are? I don't believe that we have clear, settled science on the issue. All of these maneuvers and legislation to try and create special interest legislation that benefits certain others over others, certain greenhouse gases are bad, but other companies are not, is all nonsense. I think we need to have some settled science before we start promoting regulation to control something that may not even exist.
Dr. Jeffrey.
Wind can be bad for the environment also. Many of the alternatives have their own side effects. We have a proven energy reserves under our seas and under our ground and in Alaska. We should be using those, and we're putting ourselves at a competitive disadvantage. To say that you're going to get a tax cut that's going to pay for the energy, well, if you've got a corner hot dog stand, you're going to do well. Your money is going to stay in your pocket. But if you run a trucking company, you're going to be in big trouble with this huge tax.
These next set of questions were sent in by people in the audience, and they're directed at specific candidates. You will have 1 minute to respond, no rebuttals from the other candidates. Representative Inglis, how can we keep giving money to other countries when we haven't funded fully Medicare and Social Security or repaid the money borrowed from these accounts?
I guess it's a question about foreign aid, especially. Foreign aid is less than 1% of the federal budget. It is important to look at every percent, but it is less than 1%. We do win some friends by going around the world and trying to persuade some people to come our direction with some aid. It's not the best way. The best way is for them to see our principles and decide they want to live under those same principles. But I'm also glad that implicit in the question is this willingness to address the really big things, which are Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. That's where the dollars are. And if we could get this conversation going, where we're really willing to have that conversation and a good discussion about how to fix it, then we can save the future of America.
Thank you. This question is for Senator Thomas. How would you help small farmers survive, those who have to abide by the same rules that mega farmers do? Are these rules pushing the small farmers out of business?
Yes, they are, because we're engaged in subsidies. And whenever you find government engaged in subsidies, then you can see distortions within the market. Anytime you see regulations coming in, you have to ask the question of what is the regulation going to do that will end up having the opposite effect, unintended consequences, of what the original intent was. So even though there may have been positive concern, it ends up with a negative effect. And that's why you find some rich people, actually with large farms or vacant land, getting subsidies from the government. That has an impact on the legitimate small farmer. That whole system needs to be revamped.
Thank you. Dr. Jeffrey, what is your position on people who are not U.S. citizens but still getting Medicaid and welfare?
It's a travesty, and it is very dishonest and fraudulent that we have permitted this to benefit certain areas of our society. People make money from providing health care to those who should not be entitled to it. I think it's absolutely wrong. I want to add to something David just added and answered. The rules that are being applied to small farmers, making them prove, for example, hire expensive analysts and prove prove that their crops are actually organic, in the same way that large farmers have to do so, will kill local, sustainable, organic farming. And I think that it's on purpose. I think that's an interest group that's powerful in Washington and is able to do so. But we should not be providing a lot of benefits for people who are not entitled to them. We're broke.
Mr. Lee, what is your opinion on the United States' use of tariff and trade barriers?
I believe that as a capitalist economy, we should have as free and fair markets as are possible. I believe that we should only use tariffs in a very judicious way when necessary to selectively level the playing field for our markets. The rest of the world uses our prosperity and our standard of living and our rules and regulations against us. And we see labor exploited in other countries and factories and things that emit pollution and whatnot that our companies are not able to do and shouldn't do. And as a result, may be competing unfairly in the market. So I believe that they should be used in a very limited capacity.
Thank you. Solicitor Gowdy, why shouldn't we legalize certain drugs and tax them to control the usage like we do with alcohol and cigarettes?
If you ask me to put myself out of a job, I'm a district attorney. If you said, look, Trey, I want you to work yourself out of a job, I would say two things. Fighting for it. And the fight needs to start in the 4th Congressional District. There is no reason we cannot be a national leader in the fight to reclaim the American dream. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lee?
I'm encouraged that there are 5 people up here on the stage out of roughly 485,000 who have stepped forward to want to represent the people of the 4th District. I'm more excited, though, that you're out there tonight and taking an interest. I believe that probably for the first time in my adult life, there is a groundswell of urgency and sober recognition of where we're at as a country and people are waking up. I'm excited about that. I'm not a career politician, as you probably picked up from this evening. I would much rather have had some fun here tonight, but these are sobering times. If you take anything from this evening, I hope that you'll recognize that I'm a clear, candid, plain-spoken, straightforward individual. I didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday, though. I have 25 years of experience in business, understanding and helping companies figure out what their problems are and helping them put processes in place to solve them. We need that kind of thinking in Washington. We don't need a different representative. We need different representation in Washington. Somebody who understands how the real world works. All the stuff that goes on in Congress, they think that that's the real world. That's not. Around the coffee table and around the kitchen table here in America, people get it, that you can't spend money you don't have. They understand that Washington is broken, and it's time that we sent different representatives to Washington who understand that, who are willing to take on the tough issues. I'm glad that Bob brought up Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. Those are tough issues we're going to have to address. And quite frankly, most of the people in Congress aren't willing to because they're going to require difficult and hard conversations. I took some tough questions this morning on an interview in Lawrence because the issue of Social Security came up. That's on that mythical third rail of politics, that place where you're not allowed to talk about things. Ladies and gentlemen, right now, America's future is on the third rail of politics. We have to engage. We have to have those discussions. It's time that we step forward, we the people, and reasserted our power over the government and took control and made Congress recognize that we've delegated the authority to them, the responsibility to them, and we expect them to be accountable with it. I ask for your consideration. I would like to have your support and your vote June 8th in the primary. Thank you very much.
Dr.